Kia ora everyone, I'm Kasey Bird.
And I'm Karina.
And today we are making our version of a surf and turf, which means a creamed oyster sauce. We have some beautiful craytails, which we have a herb garlic butter we're putting on. And we also are using eye fillet today for our steak, our turf portion of the dish. And fresh kaimoana, which is from Yellow Brick Road.
Let's get started. I'm in charge of shucking the oysters and Kasey is in charge of cooking the craytails.
Cool. We are going to start by cutting these in half because we want to grill them in the half shell. And that should be through enough that we can just give it a nice crack and open. And if you can see here, there's just this little track. We want to remove this from our craytail, just like that.
I'm going to now shuck these Mataku Bay oysters from Yellow Brick Road. There's a little latch that sits along the side of the shell, so wiggle your knife in. And then you want to sort of just like cut the very top of the shell so that you're only going to cut that attachment off and you're not going to stab the flesh of the oyster. Then just twist it at the base and then just run your knife along the bottom to release the muscle under there as well. You just flip it over. So if you're going to serve that fresh, just flip it over onto its display side. But what we're going to do with these oysters is we're going to make sort of like a oniony, sweet sort of cream sauce and then plop the oysters in just before serving it so they plump up in the heat and then serve that on top of the eye fillet.
I want to eat that right now, but I won't.
You can eat it.
Can I?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have it. Just kidding, don't eat it. Yum.
Good?
Yeah, really good.
Okay, good.
I'll start on the base of the sauce now. So we have a pot here. We have our butter. Just going to add a little bit of butter. Our Kokovo avocado oil in there. We've got it on a medium heat, and once that starts to melt, we're going to add some diced onion and garlic. And we want to cook these until they're nice and translucent.
I also find this very therapeutic to just shuck oysters.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So our wine we are adding is the Cornwall Chardonnay, which is also going to be our wine match today. So we just want to do a splash into there. And we just want to cook that until it reduces. And that's going to just give another sort of layer of flavour to our dish here. So now our wine has cooked down enough, it's taken that harsh edge off, and now we're going to pour our cream in. And what we want to do is we want to reduce this so it starts to get a little bit thicker. Now we are going to get started on the butter for the craytails. I have some fresh herbs, I've got parsley, I've got chives, and what I'm going to do is just roughly chop these up, and that is going to go straight into our food processor. And then to this, we are going to add a clove of garlic. I like to just give this another little rough chop up. Generous amount of butter, and that can go in as well. A little bit of lemon, and I'm actually going to put some zest in as well. Now we're just going to get this going. Cool, that's all done.
Okay, now I'm going to get on to cooking this beautiful eye fillet. What you want to do whenever you're cooking meat or whenever you're cooking beef, you want to take it out of the fridge like 30 to 40 minutes before you cook it, because you want it to come down to room temperature. So when you're searing it, it's not cold on the inside and it cooks more evenly through the entire piece of meat. And you want it to be dry. You don't want it to be covered in moisture and blood, because then it's not going to sear properly. It's actually going to stew a little bit. So make sure it's room temperature and dry. Next up, we are going to season. You just underestimate how much salt you actually need.
You want to be quite generous, right?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, people they're like, wow, what did you do to your salt? And you're like, I seasoned it. So don't be scared, because some of it comes off in the pan, you know, and this is a decadent dish. This dish isn't really about moderation, you know. Lots of black pepper. Put the oil on the meat. Okay, so that's nice, oily and seasoned, and it's going to go in this really hot pan, and you want to hear the sizzle, like that. So you're going to want to keep them cooking on each side for, I'd say, around about 3 minutes, then I'll turn them 3 minutes, and then I'll turn them on the sides and cook around the sides as well for about 2 minutes. While
Karina gets the steak cooking, I'm going to work on our craytail. So I've got our herb garlic butter in there. And then what I want to do is just put a generous amount onto the tails like that and just spread it on. Look how good that is.
All right, now I'm going to be flipping these steaks over. You see that you've got that nice crust on the steak. That's what you want, the Maillard reaction. See that nice crust there, beautiful. And I'm just gonna put like a tablespoon of butter into this pan. Add a clove of garlic, let the butter melt, and then once it's melted, what you want to do is just sort of tilt the pan and then just start basting your steak in the melted butter, and it continues to cook the steak all over from the hot butter.
And as you finish that off, I'm going to get started on cooking the craytail. So I want to turn our pan onto a medium to hot heat. And now I'm going to pop these into our pan, just like this. Can you see that beautiful green? Like, that's just fresh herbs coming out, all that beautiful green colour through there.
Are you really proud of yourself?
It looks good though, like that's really nice and vibrant, and with the beautiful colour of the craytails.
I'm just cooking around the sides because you want it to have a crust all the way around.
Oh my gosh, it looks so good.
I'm gonna take our meat out. One of the most important things about cooking any type of meat really is that you have to let it rest. So all of the juices go back into the middle of the meat and it makes it a lot more moist. And then I just like to pour a little bit of this cooking liquid over the top. Those can just sit there until the craytails are done, the sauce is ready, and those will just rest there nicely.
So we've just flipped them so the underside of the shell can get some heat and that meat cooks through as well. But I think the key with seafood is just to be really gentle. You don't need to be too crazy with it. And then our cream sauce, if you can see here, is bubbling up. Pop the oysters in, just like that. We want to do this really quickly. Once they're all in, we're going to turn the heat off and they're going to cook through with the residual heat of that sauce in there. Look how good that looks. Oh, if that isn't decadent, I don't know what is.
That's terribly good.
That is terribly good, isn't it?
terribly good.
And that's us. Look at that.
Let's plate. Okay, now what you're gonna do, grab one of your well-rested pieces of beef. And then we have just a little bit of like sauteed watercress, this piece of cray. And I'm just gonna wrap it around the side of the beef.
Gentle seafood hug.
Like they're gently spooning each other. Scoop out a couple of these plump oysters. And then I'm just going to garnish with a little bit of the fresh watercress on top, and voila.
And that there is the ultimate surf and turf, and what better way to finish it than matching it with the Chardonnay.
I think it goes really well. Usually people wouldn't match a Chardonnay with a steak, but I think this is actually highlighting and matching really nicely with the seafood that's been cooked in the glorious butter and cream. So yeah, that's what we're going to put with this ultimate surf and turf dish.
Cheers, Karina.
Cheers, Kasey. Good working with you. Again, pleasure. Head to the Kitchen Things page on Fieldays online for recipe details. And while you're there, enter the competition to win a fabulous Smeg small appliance. Good luck!